audience. And our second race that we're going to cover will be the Ohio State Representative, 88th District. So on your ballot, you are going to see the names of Gary Click, Eric Watson, Aaron W. Jones, and Benjamin David Machukas. And we ask at this time that those who are present would come forward to the stage. In similar format, guys, we're going to call you up one at a time to give 3-minute opening remarks, and we're going to start with Aaron.
Okay. Just got comfortable there. When does my clock start?
As soon as you start.
All right, you ready? Okay.
Time.
Wow, that was quick. First of all, thank you all for coming tonight. Thanks for putting this on, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Aaron Jones. I am a Democratic candidate for the 88th District. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Tiffin, Ohio. I grew up outside of Tiffin. Went to school at Clyde High School, where I graduated. After graduating high school, I already knew what I wanted to do, so I joined the military, which I'm very proud of. I'm a proud United States Army veteran. Served with the Airborne Infantry. I know that seems crazy. I'm not. Jumping on airplanes isn't that bad. So after that, I came back to this area. I met my wonderful wife, who couldn't be here tonight, but I would like to thank her for letting me do this. Without her, my life would not be the same, that's for sure. But my wife Tracy and I have 5 children. We have a blended family. We have 4 grandchildren. We live in Tiffin, like I said. I am also a Tiffin City Council member, where I have been for the last 3 years. So if you're familiar with Tiffin, Tiffin's done a lot of very, very positive things with the current administration. It's a great place to live. I'm running for the state representative position because things in Columbus are not working for anybody. They're just not. And if anybody says they are, I would like for someone to simplify it so I can understand it, because it's just not working. We're trying to change things that the voters have already voted on multiple times. You know, we have a piece of legislation, the voters vote on it, we say what we want, and then lo and behold, here we are, we're changing what we voted on. I think that sends a very, very bad message to the voters. And I think the desire of the voters' will needs to be upheld. It really does. So, and education, like you're going to hear a lot tonight, education, everybody, is in the Ohio Constitution. It's very clear. Public education, it doesn't say you might or you can, it says you shall fund public education. You shall fund it. It's not an option. It's a simple fix. Start following the Ohio Constitution. You know, stop
30 seconds.
giving money to everyone else. And when it comes to grassroots campaigns, I think I'm about the most grassroots campaign you can get. You might call me a sprout, because I haven't taken any money from anybody, and I will not take any money from any political PACs or corporations, because my vote, my stance cannot be bought. And I thank you all for coming tonight.
Gary?
All right, on your mark, you say go, right? 3 minutes, that goes by really fast. So good to see all of you, so many familiar faces. Thank you, Tyler, so much, and to the Legislative Committee for the Chamber for hosting this. I'm actually going to start off with an apology. I owe Eric an apology. The last time we were here, I got my tongue tied. You remember that, Eric? And I said Arkansas instead of Arizona, which is where he moved here from. So here's a can of Arizona tea.
But born and raised in
Yeah, but you haven't been here for a decade. And so you moved him and his wife went to Arizona to make a life for themselves, came back here to retire. And we're glad to have you back, Eric. And I want to commend everyone who is here, who's running, putting your name on the ballot. It's not easy. You get a lot of things said about you. Probably 90% of them are not true. At least that's been my experience. But Eric's got a good endorsement from a sheriff in Arizona. I've got Sheriff Hilton. I'd put Sheriff Hilton up against any sheriff in Arizona any day of the week. Sheriff Hilton has endorsed me, Sheriff Stevens and Seneca's endorsed me, even Sheriff Dvorak up in Ottawa County has endorsed me. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce has endorsed me, the NFIB, Buckeye Firearms, E-rating with NRA. I've got the support of Vivek, John Husted, Bernie Marino, Bob Latta, Riley Gaines, Chloe Cole, and I'm the only one here that's ran a successful business in Ohio. In fact, sometimes people don't look at a church as a business, but a church cannot ignore basic business principles. When I took this church 20 years ago, they were actually about ready to close. They'd already closed their Christian school. The daycare was about ready to close. They were in dire straits. And when I came, the creditors were coming to the door every day. They were ready to turn off the utilities. They were ready to turn off the gas. They were ready to turn off the lights. But 20 years later, I was able to hand this church over to someone that I had mentored for 14 years and hand it over in a very successful manner. Some legislation. I am the author of House Bill 613, which is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Many businesses, but also individuals, have to wait too long when they contest their taxes. Years sometimes, and so this is a priority bill of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce that has endorsed me, and it tightens that time frame to say that they've got to give you resolution. I'm also the primary sponsor of House Bill 484, which is another priority bill for the Chamber. It's about childcare. It's called the Workforce Investment Now Act. And we've got to meet the need of childcare to meet the need of businesses in our community and in our state, and we're working on that. I also got legislation. I got a bill into the budget called Aim Higher that supports this very institution in dropout recovery. $175,000 went in for that. We've been cutting your taxes. We've been spending money on education and so forth. So we're really working hard for you. We're working on lowering your taxes. We've lowered $3 billion in property tax relief. And so we're doing a lot of things for you. And so I'll cut there. I think I'll beat the timer, which is unusual if any of you know me. But I appreciate your support over the years, and I look forward to serving my final term in the House of Representatives.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. And first off, name's Eric Watts. I run for State Representative for House District 88. And as of last year, this was not planned, but I felt like I was being called. And what I saw was happening in Ohio, as far as our state leadership, worried me. Because as I go around to constituents throughout District 88, and even you heard tonight, is that we got serious problems. One of the biggest problems is we got mismanagement of unclaimed funds. $600 million was decided to be given to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. That's not okay. That means that you guys are put second, third, or fourth. On top of that, they decided to vote through $1.72 billion. And on top of that, we have $136 million that DHS actually discovered about 2 to 3 years now that's going overseas of our tax dollars. Pretty unacceptable, I believe. So how about we get a control on the fraud and the mismanagement of our funds? I have a degree in international studies, which actually has to do with international policy and understanding how that affects our national policy as well as our state policy. And we have major issues coming down the line with infringements upon our constitutional rights right now that I've spoke about. My other degree is in aviation technology. My wife and I have actually, we met in the past, graduated from Ohio, Dayton, Ohio at Wright State University. We trained at Dayton International Airport, and my wife and I met there. It was love at first flight. And so we, Lord takes us on different journeys, and he took us to Arizona for a period of time. I made a successful business. It still runs. My employees run it. In 2022, we decided to make the move back to Ohio. And in doing so, I thought, well, with my educational background and also my business background, I think I can be a really strong help to the smaller communities which District 88 has. I go around, and you know what I hear? I hear constituents' concerns that their elected officials are not listening to them on every level, that they're not putting them first, and that people are going to lose their homes in a major way. That concerns me. 40% calculated of the state, 40%, conservative number, 1.4 million people's, 1.4 million will fall into the arrears by the end of this year, possibly in Ohio. Lays out a welcome mat for large institutions to come in and buy up a lot of property, don't it? So we need to make sure that your constitutional rights are protected, mine are protected as well, because we're all in this together. No political gain here. I just feel that I'm being called to do this. I want to serve. But in doing so, I can be a face, I can be a leader, but I want to listen to you guys, because you guys are actually the most important part of running as a state representative. Thank you.
Aaron, we'll invite you back up to answer a question.
Aaron, I have your question. Do you believe Ohio's current tax structure is competitive for business? What changes, if any, would you advocate to improve the state's business climate?
As far as for businesses, are we talking small businesses, large corporations, or just any business? Because there could be a difference.
Open.
Okay. Well, I think it's pretty obvious in Ohio that small businesses are taking it on the chin. They always have, and it shouldn't be that way. However, some of your larger corporations tend to get by without paying nearly what they should in taxes. I think it should be a fair playing field for all the businesses. Probably less for small businesses, but those big corporations that come in and promise you the world and don't pay their fair share of taxes is a big part of the problem. And that can be fixed. It can be fixed, and it can be fixed very easy with some legislation. But when it comes to small businesses, you have to be able to give them bigger breaks, more of an incentive to open a small business. But definitely your larger businesses should be paying their fair share, and a lot of times, it's not just Ohio, it's across our nation, big businesses tend to get over. And when they fail, we pay for it. And when they succeed, nobody gets anything from that. They get all the stock dollars, they get all that, but yet they're not paying that in their tax burden. So I thank you. Can I just ramble on now for 30 seconds? No, I'm
Why
kidding.
not?
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Gary?
Yes.
Gary?
Bill?
Gary,
Bill?
do you support or oppose Ohio's constitutional amendment on property tax? Why or why not?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question. So I think people should vote their conscience on that. So I'm not going to tell you all how to vote. I will tell you this, is that I understand the passion of eliminating the property tax. The problem is there's not the other end of that. One of the things we have to look at when we pass any legislation, in fact, I considered legislation to end the property tax, but then you have to say, okay, how are we going to pay for fire? How are we going to pay for EMS? How are we going to pay for our schools? Which, by the way, we gave over $500 million new money to schools this year. How are you going to pay for all the essential services? And if someone can come up with a plan that we can cover all the essential services, I'd be all for that. The problem is, their only suggestion is raise the sales tax. That's not going to work, and my friend over here says, well, look at Florida. We got 6 states around us. Florida is a peninsula. And they thrive on tourism, and we're not Florida. We can't do what they do because of that. And you can get to about, the majority of our state can get to any one of those other states in less than an hour. So they're going to go over there and make their major purchases. So that's not going to work. But we need a holistic plan. And by the way, we have done a lot to address. Everybody's upset, and they rightfully upset about the spike in property taxes. And that's why we've given $3 billion in property tax relief, and even more. We're continuing to work on that. And we've also, we've reduced the income tax down to just 2 brackets, which is nothing.
30 seconds.
And then 1.75. And we're continuing to do that until we eliminate the property tax as well. And I'm working on a bill right now. By the way, Janae is in the back. She's my legislative aide, which is a technology investment tax credit for small businesses. Because we do care about our small businesses. We've reduced the CAT tax, which is a commercial activity tax, and we're going to try to eliminate that as well. So we're working on making this state a more business-friendly state. We are actually in the top 5 states to do business in, and Sandusky and Seneca counties have both been in the top 5 micropolitan communities in the last few years. So we're doing good. We can do better, but we're doing great.
Thanks, Gary.
Eric, what measures would you support to ensure transparency, accountability, and efficient use of taxpayer dollars at the state level?
Well, my whole platform focuses on transparency and accountability, because how can you even have accountability if you have no transparency, which is integrity and actually having honesty at the state level? We don't seem to have that right now. We don't have it in Ohio. We don't have it even throughout our nation in some matters. So we actually need to bring forth tax legislation for transparency. We can actually do that so we can track our dollars. Tax revenue, transparency legislation. I think the constituents, I think the taxpayers actually deserve to see where their money's going. So when their heartstrings are pulled on for passing legislation for new taxes, perhaps for the schools or for other things, that they actually get to see how it's distributed later. I think everybody would love to see that. One of the things as a successful small business owner is budget. If you don't have a budget, you can't function. You fail. And if you don't know where your funds are, how are you ever supposed to have a budget? This state cannot honestly tell you that they know how they're going to fund stuff because the fraud is so rampant, guys. It's awful. So, actually endorsed by Chris Cox. He's actually a Presidential Advisory Council member to DHS. And yeah, I was endorsed by a U.S. congressional candidate, America's Sheriff from Arizona,
30 seconds.
Mark Lamb. And I think it's great because no matter what state you've been in, I'm still in the United States of America. We all travel around. We go to different states. So he wants me to be ashamed of how I traveled around the country. I'm not coming from China, Gary. So, but here in this country, I have an obligation, if elected and when elected, to serve you guys,
Time.
not myself. Thank you.
Okay, we'll invite you back up for closing comments. Aaron? Down to 1 minute this time.
Got to get it right, right? So again, thank you all for coming tonight. I just want to leave you with a few thoughts. May 5th, you have a decision to make in the primary. One of these two gentlemen. Obviously, I'm running unopposed. And then you're going to have another decision to make in November. So there's a lot of time. So there can be a lot of thought and a lot of research. I can tell you this, that I am part of the 88th district. I truly do represent the 88th district because every day I wake up at about 4:30 in the morning and I pack my lunch just like a lot of people in here, and I go to work and I work 9-10 hours a day in a manufacturing setting, which is a large part of the 88th district. Okay, so I do understand what struggle is. I have people that work for me that struggle. I've struggled before, and that's why I'm running. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you all the people that endorsed me, this or that, and I'll tell you why. Because there's only one group of people that I want to be endorsed by, and that's the voters of the 88th district. Thank you.
Gary?
All right, I'm used to not talking fast, but I'm going to talk fast. First of all, I want to say hi to Brian. Brian, raise your hand back there. Brian Weichert, back there. I'm talking about my whole time I meet with the people in the district. And Brian is one of those guys. He comes to the tent and sees me sometimes. Sometimes he likes what I'm doing. Sometimes he doesn't like what I'm doing. Right, Brian? But Brian came into me with an idea. So it's not just all the bigwigs. It's the people, ordinary people like Brian. Brian's got a service animal down there. You can probably see him afterwards. And he says, why do we have to pay sales tax on our service animals? You don't have to pay sales tax on your other medical equipment. I said, Brian, you're right. And so we just introduced Brian's Law. What bill number is that? 822, 812? 822 is Brian's Law, named after Brian Weichert, right there in the back. So stand up, Brian. Everybody give Brian a round of applause. And thank you, Brian, for bringing that to me. Just like Keith's Law, which is a voluntary special needs database for people with special needs. We've done that. I'm running out of time. I commend my opponents. They're both good men. Of course, we're talking about different ideas. And, but there's one thing they both have in common. Neither one of them have voted in a Republican primary, and both of them are supported by the Democrats. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Eric?
Gary, I'm a little confused. I'm running as America First candidate, Republican. I've always voted Republican. You can go sniff out my record all you want. I was actually a Republican committeeman in Arizona, so I don't know where your facts are coming from. Long story short, guys, this isn't about me or Gary even at this point. This is about you guys out here. We have some serious issues in the state of Ohio. I'd like to address them, and it's going to take every one of us, because at the end of the day, we're going to have roundtable discussions. We're going to have to get together, and we're really going to have to figure this out. The thing about Florida that's different is that Governor DeSantis actually has a legislator that's come together to try to figure out how to abolish property tax. The referendum process of abolish property tax throughout the state of Ohio is actually a constitutional ballot issue. It's two different things, two different states. I understand that. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we do what's right. And I actually do have family members that are firemen, law enforcement, educators. And I do have real solutions that I actually put together so far that we can take to the legislator and actually get together on it and pass once people have heard them. They're common sense issues.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.